Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories in the week. I'm Teniola Shoboale. The headlines. Senate passes bill on electronic transmission of election results bill, but with a clause. Opposition lawmakers stage a walkout in House of Representatives as House passes Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Students of University of Lagos vacate hostels after medical center reported several cases of COVID-19. Plus, at least 120 people dead and hundreds more remain unaccounted for as flood rages across Europe. That's News Round in View. News Round begins with the passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill in the Senate on Thursday. The bill hit stormy waters as lawmakers bickered over Clause 52, which guarantees electronic transmission of election results. But the Senate eventually passed the bill retaining electronic transmission of results, but with a caveat that the Independent National Electoral Commission may consider electronic transmission provided the national network coverage is adjudged to be adequate and secure by the Nigerian Communications Commission and approved by the National Assembly. However, the House of Representatives suspended its consideration of the bill after a rowdy session.
They saved the most critical decision for last, the amendment of the Electoral Act. The National Assembly had intended to pass this bill on the final day of plenary before it proceeds on its annual recess. Days before the passage, reports swept the country of plans to expunge a clause from the bill which guarantees electronic transmission of results, a critical aspect of elections. The Senate begins the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill. It gets to Clause 52, which gives the Electoral Commission the discretion to introduce electronic voting as may be practicable. Senator Aliyu Abdullahi seeks an amendment to this clause.
The Commission may consider electronic transmission of results provided the national coverage is adjudged to be adequate and secure by the National Communications Commission (NCC) and approved by the National Assembly.
But another lawmaker, Senator Albert Bassi, wants the clause in the committee's report retained.
That the Commission may transmit the result by electronic means, where and when practicable.
The Senate President rules.
Clause 52.3, as amended by Senator Bassi Akpan. Say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The nays have it.
Tension builds in the chamber as lawmakers are divided between the amendments. The Senate President tries to maintain order. Unable to do so, the Senate then goes into a closed-door session. The executive session ends and the minority leader calls for a division.
Mr. President, I still insist. We want Nigerians to know who has voted or not.
The vote begins, and it's obvious that lawmakers are voting along party lines.
I categorically vote no against the amendment by distinguished Senator Albert.
Therefore, vote yes to electronic transmission of results, because that is what Nigerians want.
I vote no, just to allow INEC to do the best job for Nigeria. Thank you.
Mr. President, I stand on the side of the people, of Nigerians. I vote yes.
The votes are counted.
28 voted yes, those that supported the amendment. 52 senators voted no, they don't want the amendment. 28 of our colleagues, senators, are absent in different parts of the country doing some jobs for the Senate and the National Assembly. Nobody abstained. Total 108.
The Senate concludes the clause-by-clause amendment and passes the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Meanwhile, in the House of Representatives, the Deputy Speaker, Idris Wase, rules against electronic transmission of results despite a resounding vote in favor of electronic transmission.
My amendment is to the effect that transmission of results under this bill, under the election, shall be by electronic transmission.
Today in Nigeria, I don't know the coverage of the broadband. Have we been able to cover all parts of the federation that will now want to put it? Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. The nays have it.
His ruling causes a rowdy session which lasts at least 15 minutes. A call by the leader of the PDP caucus for division is ignored and a new amendment is proposed.
Transmission of results under this bill shall be both manual and electronic. I didn't put voting, I said transmission.
And for a second time, despite a resounding vote in favor of the amendment, the Deputy Speaker rules against the ayes, leading to another rowdy session.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. Nay! The nays have it.
The rowdy session lingers and the House suspends consideration of the electoral bill and reverts to plenary.
2010 and enact the Electoral Act 2021 to regulate the conduct of elections in the federal, state and area councils in the federal capital territory and for related matters, approve clauses 1 to as amended.
While reporting progress, the Deputy Speaker states that the controversial Clause 52 has been considered and approved. But some lawmakers insist that that is not the case, and this leads to yet another rowdy session.
36 as amended, 37 as amended, 38 to 48, 49 as amended, 50 to 54, and the
And it gets even worse as lawmakers come close to exchanging blows. The Speaker takes over plenary and adjourns sitting while reacting to the controversial Clause 52, which the Deputy Speaker claims to have considered.
We will be adjourning the House until tomorrow 10 a.m. We will have the INEC chairman and NCC. We will have the INEC chairman and NCC to brief us. The INEC chairman and NCC will be here to brief us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on Section 52.
As plenary ends, the anger rages as a fight ensues. Lawmakers in the Green Chamber will now have to push forward their annual recess until the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is passed. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Well, as deliberations on the Electoral Act resumed in the lower chamber the following day, opposition lawmakers led by the minority leader Ndudi Elumelu staged a walkout as the House passed the amendment bill. This came after the Deputy Speaker insisted that Clause 52 of the bill, which deals with electronic transmission of results, had been considered and adopted the previous day. In the absence of the opposition, the House also passed the Harmonized Petroleum Industry Bill, which made provision for 3% operating cost for host communities.
A day after they were supposed to have gone on their annual recess, lawmakers in the Green Chamber settled down to conclude consideration of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which caused a fight the previous day. The House had invited the Nigerian Communication Commission and the electoral umpire to speak on their preparedness to transmit election results electronically, but only the NCC was eventually considered. The NCC speaks on broadband distribution across the country and how it may affect electronic transmission of results.
From what I could tell of what is required, it's only 3G that could give that kind of coverage. I mean, that could give that kind of transmission.
Okay.
In full, I mean.
Okay. So
yes,
only 3G
yes,
can adequately transmit.
Yes,
only 3G.
Yes, the polling units that fell under 3G coverage. Let's just say the stations that had 3G coverage came to about 50%.
The 50% claim by the NCC may, however, be questioned as the Nigerian National Broadband Plan 2020 to 2025, published by the NCC in 2019, puts the deployment of 2G coverage at 89%, 3G at 75%, and 4G at 37% of the population. The House then resolves to the Committee of the Whole, chaired by the Deputy Speaker, to resume consideration of the bill and adopt direct primaries.
I would like to amend Section 87 to make direct primaries, and delete the word indirect and make direct primaries mandatory.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. That's have it.
Meanwhile, the Speaker had stated the previous day that the House would resume from the controversial Clause 52 after hearing from the NCC. But the Deputy Speaker resumes consideration from Clause 54, sparking outrage from opposition lawmakers. The Deputy Speaker explains his decision, but the opposition is dissatisfied and stages a walkout.
That go and read our votes and proceedings of today. This particular question was put, and that was why we had it reported at the Committee of the Whole.
If that is the case, that they have carried it and waiting for us to do a rescission, because it was never carried. So the issue of rescission
no, sir.
will not even arise. I will advise that we leave the chamber. We are not part of it.
And that's the meaning of democracy. Thank you very much. We are grateful. Leader, no title, no.
Outside the chamber, the minority leader explains why they chose to abandon the process.
They claimed the INEC should not come because it will be seen the INEC is taking a position. But the same INEC came at the public hearing and attested to the fact that they can work with electronically transmitting results. That same clause 52, that even Speaker himself upon commencement announced that we should suspend it and go to other clauses. The Deputy Speaker, who has shown that he's not democratic, he's not a Democrat, decided to ignore that, decided to ignore the whole House, and went ahead to start counting from clause 54 against what we had agreed. He was not saying that we should be guided by the rules. And being guided by the rules means to rescission, which in effect that we should admit that it was carried when it was never carried. And as far as we are concerned, that session has not been taken. And we will continue like this, even when we resume in the next assembly, in the next section, we will disrupt the city until our voices are heard.
He is countered by the majority leader.
For me, clause 52, just like the chair of the Committee of the Whole insisted, as leader of the 9th House of Representatives, I want to put it to you that we procedurally took section 52. It was carried, and we have no cause whatsoever going back to it except through rescission, which was not properly moved for.
Does that rule the Speaker out of order yesterday when he said that consideration will resume from clause 52?
What you need to know is that the Speaker is one thing, and the House of Representatives is another one.
Back in the chamber, with majority of the opposition absent, the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is passed.
Because of the briefing we have received from the officials of NCC, clearly states that this country as a nation cannot go for something that will not be effective. And on that note, I so move that through the use of any technological and electronic devices in the long title be deleted.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it.
Perhaps the concern now would be whether this highly anticipated Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which has taken years to be passed, will truly address the election concerns and improve the election process in the country. Meanwhile, in the absence of the opposition lawmakers, the House passed the PIB at 3% operating cost for host communities as passed by the Senate. The House has now adjourned till September the 14th. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
When News Round returns in just a moment, students of University of Lagos vacate hostels after a medical center reported several cases of COVID-19. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Staying with the National Assembly, the Senate has rejected the nomination of Mrs. Loretta Onochie as National Commissioner representing Delta State in the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The decision to reject Mrs. Onochie comes after the lawmakers considered a report from the Committee on INEC, which stated that her nomination contravenes the federal character principle.
Opposition was swift and intense from the moment President Buhari nominated his aide, Mrs. Loretta Onochie, for the position of INEC National Commissioner and asked the National Assembly to confirm her. There were several reasons for the opposition to her nomination, with the strongest being her membership of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, an allegation Mrs. Onochie denied during her screening by the Senate Committee on INEC.
2019. When President Muhammadu Buhari won his second term, I have removed myself from anything political.
The committee submits its report on the screening exercise to the Senate during Tuesday's legislative proceedings.
In the case of Ms. Loretta Onochie, the 8th Senate passed based on the recommendation of its INEC committee, confirmed Barrister May Obamuche Mbu from Delta State as the National Commissioner of INEC, who is still serving at present. Therefore, confirming the nomination of Mrs. Loretta Onochie from the same Delta State will be a violation of federal character principles.
The committee also steps down the confirmation of Professor Sani Adams, representing the North Central, for further investigation because of the petitions against him. The Senate adopts the recommendations of the committee.
Will the Senate approve the nomination of Loretta Onochie as a commissioner representing Delta State in the Independent National Electoral Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
Lawmakers react to the Senate's decision.
We are elected representatives of the people, and what people feel concerned about should also give us a concern. But I'm happy that the ground for our decision was made very clear, and it's not about Mrs. Loretta Onochie, it's about setting a standard, for ourselves as a country.
If you want confidence reposed in INEC, we need to give them the enablement for Nigerians to bestow that confidence in them. So I think the Senate has done the proper thing, and they've acted with public opinion.
Members of civil rights organizations and the opposition PDP will be sighing in relief at the Senate's rejection of a nomination of Mrs. Loretta Onochie as a National Commissioner for INEC, as they also await President Buhari's response to her rejection. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Well, away from the legislature, the president has flagged off the construction of the Kano-Kaduna railway project in Kano State. The flag-off had the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, and Governor Umar Ganduje, amongst other dignitaries, in attendance. The project, which is in segments, is expected to serve as an important passenger transportation corridor to connect main cities in northern Nigeria with the southern part of the country.
The president is in Kano on a special visit. It's the groundbreaking ceremony of Kano-Kaduna segment of the Lagos to Kano Railway Modernization Project in the Zawachiki area of Kano State. The project covers a 203-kilometer double-track standard gauge railway traversing major cities of Kaduna, Zaria, and Kano. President Muhammadu Buhari reiterates his administration's commitment to railway transportation.
The takeoff of construction activities on this segment of the Lagos-Kano vividly represents the commitment of this administration in the revival of Nigerian railway system to reduce the deficiency in our transportation infrastructure and drive effective and more efficient transportation of passengers and freight within the country.
On the inland dry port situated on the Kano to Kaduna route, President Buhari says it's part of efforts to aid international trade.
The railway line will be linked to the second port in Lagos, the Tinkan Island port. It is also expected that the inland dry port on these routes will be activated and the ports can now receive imports directly from the international market as ports of destination such as Ibadan, Kaduna, and Kano inland dry ports.
The Minister of Transportation, Chibike Amechi, talks up the advantages of the project.
This railway line will present an opportunity for Nigerians to traverse between Abuja and Kano via Kaduna with relative ease. The project will no doubt improve the standard of living of citizens within this corridor, create employment, and this was the directive the President gave me a month ago when I told him that we want to start Kano Kaduna. He said to me, Mr. Minister, make sure you create employment. And I'm glad to inform you that we will not employ anything less than 20,000 workers on this route.
The leader of the beneficiary state thanks the federal government and praises its drive toward infrastructure development.
On behalf of the people and government of Kano State, permit me to express my warm welcome to the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari. I also congratulate the entire people of Kano State on the groundbreaking of the Nigeria Railway Modernization Project, third segment, that is Kano to Kaduna.
In spite of the rain, President Buhari inaugurates the Dengue interchange in the Kano metropolis.
Students of the University of Lagos have been asked to vacate the halls of residence following reports from the institution's medical center on the discovery of cases of COVID-19. According to the medical center, the cases came in with complaints of flu-like symptoms.
University of Lagos Akoka campus, after students were told to vacate the hostels following the discovery of many cases of COVID-19 among them. Tempers flare. Confusion reigns as students scamper to leave the campus before the noon deadline. They feel the situation could be handled with more consideration for their welfare.
I feel like the whole thing is just very impromptu. They didn't tell us early, number one. It's just yesterday they told us that we have to start moving till 12 today. And I feel like they should have even told us to go home from the moment they found the first case. It's now yesterday that they were just doing their meeting and chasing everybody home. It's so frustrating because now people have to be paying like 11,000 naira to go home.
Most of my classmates stay in Nasarawa, Kano. How do they want them to live at least under 16 hours?
The hostels are really crowded, so I feel closing down the school is the best decision. And online schooling. But the problem I have, the fear I have is that they are not going to use a good site for our exams because last lockdown we had issues. Most people were locked out during their tests and exams and they could not take the exam again.
The Dean of Students' Affairs never imagined it would come to this.
Over the next 3 weeks, we started getting an increased number of students testing positive for COVID. By the 12th of July, we had about 28 students confirmed. We also had staff that also come down with COVID.
He claims that students flouted COVID-19 safety protocols, even though every precaution was taken.
So students were not actually obeying the COVID protocols. We were literally under compulsion Once they got out of the hostel, they removed the mask. You see them walking all over the campus without mask, without social distancing. We insisted that there should be no squatting in the hostels, but they did everything they could to smuggle themselves into the hostels.
The school authorities have extended the deadline for departure by 24 hours to make things easier for the students.
For now, closure of the hostels is for an indefinite period of time. But authorities hope that in September, when a new batch of vaccines is likely to arrive, then students can be called back, vaccinated, and start physical learning. Until then, it's distance learning for them. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
News round ends with the death of at least 120 people and hundreds more in Western Europe unaccounted for after some of the worst flooding in decades. Record rainfall caused rivers to burst their banks, devastating the region. In Germany, where the death toll now stands at over 100, Chancellor Angela Merkel has called for a determined battle against climate change. And that's the news round this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.